Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terabant Leadership. We are going to be talking today about the eventual split of the MAGA party. That shouldn't surprise anyone. And when I've said many times, you're not only going to see the split of the MAGA party, you're eventually going to see a split of the country. And that's what's happening. Diversity is our strength, has now been educated in many people's mind that we went too far. And that's what happens. We're not one country, we're not one unit. We will eventually split. Now you have to give credit where credit is due to Donald Trump. When Donald Trump came along, he educated many Americans, or at least the Republicans, on these Republican in name onlys. And you could say that Donald Trump split the Republican Party at first, and then he's basically, through great leadership in many ways, through leadership, he's, I don't know, destroyed, marginalized, basically made null and void, you could say, the old Republican Guard, and he made MAGA. That's phenomenal. But now people are scratching their heads, to include me. I'm in this boat. Where's MAGA going? And sometimes you feel like MAGA now is still coming back to its original, or MAGA meaning the MAGA Republicans are going back to their original thing, and that is what? The globalist corporations. So we're going to listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene from her standpoint. She was pro-MAGA. She was, I guess, one of Trump's loyalists, and now she's not. And she's talking about how the MAGA party is going to split. It will, whether she does it or not. And I said again, we'll talk more about the events in America and around the world, but you're going to see that sooner or later, this system's not going to work. It's just going to split. It's going to split either to some type of civil war, some type of divorce. So in terms of the whole MAGA party eventually splitting, it's going to come. And we'll get into specifics, but let's see what she has to say in terms of her rhetoric, and then we'll make comments.
Newsweek got it exactly right with their headline this week. Marjorie Taylor Greene's next act could fracture the right. What they don't understand is that it's not going to fracture the right. It's going to save it by separating the real America First conservatives from the establishment pretenders who've been hijacking our movement for their own gain. For 5 years, I watched from inside Congress as the Republican Party talked a big game about draining the swamp while doing everything possible to preserve it. I watched so-called conservative leaders promise to fight for working families while taking checks from the same corporate donors who fund the Democrats. I watched them campaign on America First principles while voting for foreign aid packages that send billions overseas while Americans struggle to pay their bills. And I realized that the problem isn't the Democratic Party. The problem is that we have two Democratic parties, and one of them just happens to call itself Republican.
Yeah, and I mentioned this before. This was one of the reasons I talked about the FBI grifters, how they got airtime, and I was never really into the Republican Party. I think in general, you could say similar. It's a great example. Fox News and CNN. One's left, one's right, but they really both work for the corporations. It's not that much different when you have the same owner. And I think that's the same thing with the Republicans and Democrats. There was a belief that Trump was going to make this MAGA party and it was going to be nationalism. And what did I keep saying? It's these globalist entities. But, and we'll get into it, but man, we are on the war path of taking nations now and building, and now we're pro law enforcement, bigger government. So it seems to be that we're going right back to the original problems.
So yes, I'm going to fracture the Republican Party, and I'm going to do it by forcing every politician who claims to be conservative to choose a side. Are you with the American people, or are you with the establishment?
Well, let me stop this and just do a comment on her. And not bad. It's just, I really don't think because now, I'm not going to say she's talking like Trump. She's like, okay, now I'm going to show the real America. We are no longer one big country. Who is an American anymore? It's just you can't do it. The way I'm saying is the only way I put faith in a politician, it would basically be something like a national divorce. They're going to break away. I mean, does she really think she's going to bring 350 million Americans together? And we're going to talk with her. But like I said, I'm sort of drifting away from MAGA. I'm definitely not drifting to the Democrats, but I'm drifting more to what I originally predicted. I think we're just going to go to civil war and it's going to collapse. But we'll hear what she says. But if she's like, hey, I'm going to bring about the true Americans, because you have to use common sense. How many Americans share what seems to be her belief and maybe my belief? But then again, my belief, I don't think women should vote. So, there's so many layers to this. I don't know. 50 million Americans believe like this? Maybe 100 million? What are we going to do? What are we going to live together with the other people? I think it's time. Meaning I would only listen to a politician. This is what I'm talking about, state politics, that starts talking about we're basically going to split. So I haven't listened to her whole dialogue. We're going to finish it. We're going to let it finish because she's definitely a pretty prominent character, a Trump loyalist who's now not MAGA. It's a pretty interesting. Let's see what logic she has. But I still believe if a new politician, we'll just say her, says, no, I'm going to lead America. Trump said, I'm going to lead. I just wouldn't. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think eventually the best solution is I'm going to divorce America. And I think this is my faction, however many million of people, and we're just going to have to leave. But if she's going to convince, again, 350 million Americans that her idea is the best, there's going to come a time where, I compare much sometimes to America like a marriage. Sometimes divorce is the only way you're going to go. But let's keep going with her and see what she has to say.
Are you actually America first? Or are you just using our slogans to get elected while serving the same masters as Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi? Because there's no middle ground anymore. And I'm done pretending there is. Let me explain.
There's going to be violence. Notice she said sooner or later Americans are going to have it. They're not going to pay their taxes anymore. There's going to be violence. And I say, what do I think the masters are? I don't know, I'd probably say the globalists, these corporations, these banks, maybe foreign, whoever's got the money. But she is right, though, that the Republicans and the Democrats, see supposedly MAGA, they still do their bidding for the highest bidders. It's the money.
Exactly how this is going to work, because the establishment media thinks I'm just throwing a tantrum after my fight with President Trump. They think I'm going to quietly disappear into some cable news job and spend the rest of my career complaining about politics from the sidelines. They couldn't be more wrong. What I'm building isn't a media company. It's a truth-telling operation that's going to expose every single Republican politician.
Notice, again, I'm not getting on her case. We'll do it. But I predicted this, meaning I've always said Trump, he's the best president in my lifetime, but I've always said the best is yet to come. She might be a better version, but it's still. But no, she says she's building truth. Didn't Donald Trump build his social media called The Truth? Was it called Truth Social? Yeah, I'm sure the Epstein files couldn't find their way on the Truth Social. So now she's going to build the truth. Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from her, but give it time. This system is not going to work. I'm waiting for the politician who comes out and just says, fuck it. We want to succeed from America. That's what we want. This is my agenda. If you're on it, these are the states, 1, 2, 3, and fuck it, we're leaving. That's probably the one I put my money on. But let her finish speaking.
Politician who talks conservative but votes establishment. I'm going to use my platform to show the American people exactly which of their so-called representatives are actually representing them and which ones are representing K Street, Wall Street, and every other street except Main Street. And when the 2026 midterms come around, I'm going to make sure that every establishment Republican who's been lying to their constituents faces a real primary challenge from someone who...
She's doing the right thing, though, meaning we're not going to fix this problem until there's conflict. Let it out there. The truth needs to come out. So she's rattling the system, and I'd say good for her.
Actually believes what they're saying. This isn't about revenge against President Trump, although he certainly gave me plenty of reasons to be angry when he turned his back on the Epstein files and started taking advice from people who hate everything we built together. This is about finishing what we started in 2016 when we promised to drain the swamp. The swamp didn't get drained. It just learned to...
It's right. Like I said, with Dan Bongino, if I was the deputy director, the only thing at least I would say, I will do this or I will be fired for at least trying. And I'm just going to fire people in the FBI. Just at the very least, I'm just going to start firing people in the FBI, and I'm going to reduce the numbers. We want it bigger. Look at the military. The military is expanding, but I don't think the original view of Make America Great Again nationalism was make a bigger government where your tax money is going to have to pay for it. So
wear MAGA hats. Look at what happened after we won back the House in 2022. Did we use our majority to investigate the Biden crime family? Did we secure the border? Did we stop?
I hope. Let me stop this now before I forget. This is a really important part. Really important. All right, I've said this again. Let me explain this. Great example would be Vladimir Putin. I could do a lot of examples like China, Vladimir Putin. You have got to ask yourself this. Trump is now second term, first year in office. And he has showed his amazing capability and determination to arrest someone in a very secure, international, almost in some ways impossible position. That's President Maduro. The amount of money, it probably cost us $1 billion plus that whole operation to arrest President Maduro. So it shows President Trump can do it. But there's been no arrest in America for high-level people. Why? I'm going to tell you leadership 101, and this is what's going to happen unless you get in a candidate. And Trump, I really feel now, he's working for the globalists. I mean, look at these globalist wars. And let me explain this. How did Vladimir Putin get to power? This is a very normal way to get to power. It's very similar in China. And oh, by the way, yes, that's our government too. Vladimir Putin, I think it was Boris Yeltsin. Again, I'm not a Russian expert, but this story is similar in all of the non-Western governments. But guess what? America, we've turned into that now because we're an empire. We are more, I guess you could say, a government mafia than you can believe, because you think, oh, we're democracy, we vote. It's meaningless. They don't work for us. They work for the corporations and the globalist donors. So it's like a mafia. So when Boris Yeltsin or many of these, lack of a better word, dictators, when they leave, one of the things they want to make sure is the safety of themselves and their families. Vladimir Putin, one of the reasons he was picked is because through his time, he was good friends. I think it was the mayor of St. Petersburg. This is where he got into politics. And he eventually got to the levels of Boris Yeltsin. And Boris Yeltsin knew through very trusted dialogue with Vladimir Putin that when Vladimir Putin replaced him and his family would have safe passage, security. It's a big deal. So what is that? And that's everywhere, even in China, like when they say they take away. Now, I'm not saying if you're in China, you get arrested and you're in the low level. I'm talking in these high level government. It's sort of like a government resort jail where it's the Chinese Communist Party. It's a mafia. Sometimes they put each other away, but it's more of a padded existence where you come, you go, because they have to handle this delicacy. Because today I'm in power. Tomorrow you could be in power. So what does that sound like? That sounds a lot like the American government, the Democrats and the Republicans, meaning Donald Trump has yet to make any major arrests in America. I mean, a lot of low-level arrests. And it shows with President Maduro, because that's outside the power influence, meaning Venezuela. Venezuela is not part of the American mafia government. So he could do it. In fact, I mean, I'm still amazed at that operation. So, and meaning it's awe-inspiring, the capabilities. Why isn't there one big arrest? Think about the Epstein files. And Donald Trump portrays himself as a smart man, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but he's either retarded or he's evil. When he talks about the Epstein file, who cares about the Epstein file? Why are you still talking about that? That's no big deal. Are you mentally fucking retarded? Or are you just trying to hide it? Because we all know the Epstein files is much more than pedophilia, which is a criminal crime. We get it, it's serious. But I think we know that we're not really that interested in the pedophilia, because there's pedophilia everywhere. It's the people that are entangled in this are probably people that are, you could say, the globalist elites. could be foreign governments, could be our own government, could be high C, Bill Gates, and meaning these are the people that pull the strings. And now we're talking national security. So for him to say the Epstein files, that's not a big deal. What are you talking about? Did you not even listen to MAGA while you got elected? So anyway, why haven't there been any major arrests? Now, there's been a lot of talk, like Donald Trump says, yeah, we're going to arrest, but he doesn't seem to have done it. And what am I talking about? These would be high-ranking Democrats. He's probably not going to arrest any Republicans, but that's what I'm saying. He's going to target them, or even just very high-level people, maybe even like Bill Gates or something. You don't really see it. Why? Retribution. And so if you really are going to come in there and change the system, and that's what Donald Trump, because the point is this, let's use common sense. Is our government corrupt or not? Yes or no? Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure, went in there saying it's corrupt. Dan Bongino went in there saying the FBI is corrupt. Well, then where are the arrests? And of course, the government wants to appease us by making a lot of arrests, you could say, of low-level criminals. Yeah, that's great. These people aren't really pulling the strings. Why aren't you arresting very high? Because Donald Trump probably knows. And not just him, everyone. The difference is, though, Donald Trump came in on there on specific promises to include, the Epstein files. But you start making arrests at the very top level, it's coming back. And that's why you'll be surprised. A lot of these non-Western governments, it is sort of like the mafia, that once you're in that, they got to be kind of careful because retribution. Now, if you're at the bottom level, they'll throw you in jail for life. They don't care about you. You're done. I mean, no one cares. But if you're at the high level, but you do have to ask yourself, Trump has now been in office, second term, first year over. He's made a phenomenal, and they call it, we know that, it's a pretext to basically invade and just imperialism, colonialize Venezuela. But Trump made it very clear, along with the FBI, this was a law enforcement operation. Okay, so he did an arrest of a very high-level person. High level is an understatement. Why isn't that happening in America yet? Probably for the same reason. Like I said, President Putin, one of the reasons he got elected or was chosen was that promise by Putin to not go after Boris Yeltsin and his loyalists. That's kind of how it works. And if I'm wrong, look at when is these arrests going to be? And don't you think the Epstein files, you're telling me maybe not one person could be implicated, and we're talking a high-level person, could be implicated enough for arrest? I think. Meaning, I think it's very possible that Trump, with the Epstein files, may have not done anything criminal. Embarrassing, but not criminal. But I think there's other people. And you don't think Trump could be covering up for him? I think that's very plausible. And then besides the Epstein file, what about all this stuff? So, even a person like Governor Tim Walz, who that probably guy deserves in prison, he is actually probably not high up. Like when I think of the globalists, I actually don't even think of government people anymore. These people control our strength. These are the people in Wall Street. These are the people in Silicon Valley. These could be people from other countries. You never know. But even a guy like Tim Walz, who should be in prison, I mean, it sounds like it. I mean, again, you're innocent until proven guilty. But Jesus, the amount of fraud that's going on there. But anyway, meaning if a governor is put to jail, I wouldn't even consider that high enough. So again, when's it going to happen? Probably because, like you've heard before, the Republicans and Democrats, it's like this WWF, the fake wrestling back and forth, and they both work for their masters. So they're kind of working together. Otherwise, when are these arrests going to be? Because if there's no arrests, then I guess America's not corrupt. Is it corrupt or not? I believe the FBI is absolutely corrupt. We'll do another show, I think the 2 episodes, we'll do another show. Dan Bongino was the deputy director. He went in there. Sounds like he's like, before he's like, the FBI's corrupt, the FBI, and then he went in there, he's like, looks okay to me, guys. So I guess we're not corrupt anymore. Okay, well, if we're not corrupt, then what was this whole platform of Trump and Dan Bongino? We'll get back, but it's an interesting point. Is American government corrupt or not? If it is, then why isn't anyone being arrested? Don't you think that was one of the platforms that Trump was running on, to put these globalist elites, even these Democrats, these high-level Democrats like Schumer or Clinton in jail? Why haven't you seen it yet? It's a pretty interesting story, especially after Trump Like, did you really, as a MAGA, think, man, I always wanted to fucking colonize Venezuela? Really? I mean, did you really care about Venezuela? I get the drugs are a big deal. Seal the border. Even Trump wants to bomb the drug boats. I get it. Illegal aliens getting kicked out. But Venezuela, I mean, really a national security threat with China, this and that? And some people are like, yes, okay, that's fine. I don't want to change the subject, but then our thing is, well, then we invade. But Donald Trump also ran on it. He wasn't really going to be a wartime president. Do I think he's a wartime president now? Yeah, I mean, we'll do another video on Greenland. It's pretty shocking. And then again, he's going to take the military budget from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. That's coming out of your taxpayer money. That's not a wartime president to you. Why? What's the threat? We've already showed it. Look at Russia. They've been in fighting now for what is it, 4 years? I mean, how many years they've been in Ukraine? Can't do it. China's going to have a big problem in Taiwan. So it just shows you how weak they are compared to how strong we are. But we're not strong enough. We're going to keep increasing. Okay, where are we going on this? Like I said, at the end of the day, let's see where this thing's going. My prediction stands, though. We're going to keep going Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I don't know if she's going to pitch it. But if she's going to pitch it, I'm the new leader, and I'm going to unite America, and I'm not going to believe her. I would only believe a politician that says, listen, we have gone too far. There's no salvaging the ship anymore. It is time to have a couple lifeboats, meaning, and I'm just coming up with some states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. I mean, I don't know. I just came up with them out of the blue. Those are the 3 lifeboats. If you're into that, and because I'm not here to please everyone, we have a very strict ideology, political ideology, where we don't have to please everyone in America. This is what we are. I don't care what it is, white nationalism. If you're in that segment, which I already know is only going to be, I'm taking a wild guess, 50 million Americans, get in these lifeboats and do it. The rest, we don't care. Meaning the political pitch would be secession, is basically what I'm saying. That would probably be the only politician where I'm like, that's plausible. That is, from a leadership standpoint, that will work. Everyone else is like, no, I've got the new idea to bring us together. No, I got the idea for us Americans. Stop. Anytime you hear someone says us Americans, we Americans, our country, who the fuck are you talking to? Who are you talking to? There's 350 million of us. We, even in the military, I said, we're 1% of the American. Even someone is like, we military veterans. Who? What we in that military veteran? We've passed the Rubicon on that. We'll keep going on it, but I'm just telling you, I think the only political solution, which I keep saying, is it's going to be civil war, but at least the first non-violent political suggestion could be just secession, non-violent. We just want a national divorce. It's not going to happen. Then it's going to get violent. But anything other than that, I don't think it's going to work, because I think a lot of people put their chips in Trump, because it is true. Trump was an anomaly. I've never seen a political figure like that. Is he working out? I'm going to put some bad news. I don't think it's going to work out. But I've always said that. I said the best is yet to come. And I always said America first is a day late and a dollar short. It's going to be state first. Think I'm wrong? Let's see where this is going. But until then, I don't know. You better pick up a rifle. I guess America's on the imperialist track. And after we're done with Greenland, I guess we're going to invade Canada, right? I mean, for national security, why not just get Canada, right? Well, where's this thing stopping? Let's go back with Marjorie Taylor and see what she has to say.
Stop the flow of money to Ukraine. Did we hold the FBI accountable for their political targeting of conservatives? We did some of those things, but not nearly enough, because too many Republicans were more worried about what the Washington Post would write about them than what their constituents needed them to do. They were more concerned with maintaining their access to the right cocktail parties than actually representing the people who elected them. And when I tried to push them to be bolder, when I demanded that we actually use our power instead of just talking about using it, I was told I was being unrealistic. I was told that politics is about compromise and incremental change and working within the system. But the system is designed to prevent change. The system is designed to protect the.
She's right on that. It's really designed not to do change, to prevent change.
Establishment. And if you're not willing to break the system, then the system is going to break you. That's what I learned during my time in Congress. And that's why I know that splitting the Republican Party is the only way to save the conservative movement. Here's my strategy, and I'm laying it out publicly because I want every establishment Republican to know exactly what's coming for them. First, I'm going to use my media platform to educate conservative voters about what their representatives are actually doing in Washington, not what they say they're doing in their.
I mean, she's doing a good thing. I mean, I wish her the best of luck. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like she's at least pushing forth the effort in the right direction, you could say.
Newsletters and press releases, but what they're actually voting for when they think nobody is watching. How many Republican voters know that their congressman voted to continue funding sanctuary cities? How many know that their senator supported Ukraine aid while voting against border security? How many know that their so-called conservative representative has taken more money from defense contractors than from individual donors in their own district? Most voters don't know these things because they trust their representatives to keep their promises, and the establishment media sure isn't going to tell them when Republicans are voting like Democrats. But I am. Second, I'm going to identify and support primary challengers who actually believe in America First principles, not just the ones who use America First language to get elected. I have a national platform, I have name recognition, and I have credibility with the voters who feel betrayed by the Republican establishment. When I endorse a primary challenger, it's going to matter. When I campaign for someone, they're going to get attention. When I tell conservative voters that their current representative has been lying to them, they're going to listen. And when establishment Republicans start losing primaries to America First candidates, the ones who survive are going to have to decide whether they want to keep serving the swamp or start serving their constituents. Third, I'm going to make it impossible for establishment Republicans to fake being conservative during election years while governing like moderates the rest of the time. Every vote they cast, every position they take, every donor they accept money from is going to be scrutinized and publicized. The days when Republicans could campaign as outsiders while governing as insiders are over. The days when they could promise to drain the swamp while doing everything possible to preserve it are over. The days when they could use conservative voters to get elected while serving establishment interests once they got to Washington are over. I'm going to make sure of it. This strategy is already working, and I haven't even officially launched it yet. Look at how many establishment Republicans are already announcing their retirements rather than face potentially difficult primaries in 2026. They know what's coming and they're getting out while they still can, but not all of them will have that option. Some of them are too arrogant to quit, and some of them are too invested in the current system to walk away. Those are the ones who are going to learn what happens when you betray the voters who trusted you. The establishment media is calling this a fracture because they want to make it sound destructive. They want to make it sound like I'm damaging the conservative movement by holding conservative politicians accountable for their actions. But movements don't get stronger by protecting their weak links. They get stronger by cutting them loose. The Republican Party has been weak for decades because it's been a coalition of people who actually want to change things. And people.
All right, I think we get it. We're going to answer some questions here. I see Ponsta, what country in the EU you're from? I'll answer some of your stuff. What I find interesting, though, is it's similar in some ways in the EU, and that is, I believe, the far right, you could say the far right political party for France is Le Pen, even though I think Le Pen has gotten some legal problems now, probably unjustly, prison. And so a woman. And then you have Germany, it's called the AFD, the Alternative for Deutschland. That would be their far right. And I'm for these parties, even though, like I said, I think politics is not going to work. But anyway, that's also a woman. She's not only a woman, she's a lesbian who's dating a brown woman. But anyway, it's interesting. Where are the men here? It's always these women. But anyway, let me answer a little bit of these questions. Ponce's from Finland. So one of the things, and Ponce, do your comment. I've said this many times. We're going to do a quick video on Greenland. The one thing that Trump is doing very good to the EU, and I've said many times, I think America should get out of NATO. Again, I'm against this invasion of Greenland. It's crazy. Keep it up, these MAGA people. But we need to get out of NATO but we should still be good alliances with Europe. Why? Because they're our European brothers. But the point is, it's time for Europeans to pay for their own security. And Europe should be primarily responsible for the security of Europe. That doesn't mean America, we can't help them out, this and that. But who is primarily responsible for the security, you could say, in North America? It would be America. This is our responsibility, or Canada. But it is time for the Europeans. So I don't like the idea of American taxpayer money. Let the Germans build the military, let the French, and the English. So I'm totally on that. And some people said that Trump's plan to get Greenland is his way of getting out of NATO, because I believe, we might do a video if you're interested, but Trump as a president is not authorized to get out of NATO. But if he invades Greenland, then NATO's done and we could get out of it. But either way, NATO is a raw deal for America. But the good thing that I like is, and this is Ponce, I disagree with you though about China and Russia. It is about Venezuela. It's about the oil. Trust me, we want free oil. It's economic. But what Trump is really doing with Greenland, and I've said this many times, if you think American men are cucks, yeah, you go to Europe. We'll ask Ponce. Ponce, who do you think is more of a cuck? The typical European white man or the American white man? Let's see what he says. I'd be happy to have an argument with him. But the truth is, the Western European white man is by far more of a cuck than the American man. Ponce, feel free to respond. Also, you got to remember, what language am I communicating with Ponce here? We're using English. Why do you think Americans learn foreign languages? I mean, I'm one of the few Americans that I'm fluent in German, I'm fluent in Chinese, but you don't have to get so hard on Americans. The reason why Americans don't learn foreign languages, and I think they should, is we don't need to, because we are the American empire. So I've said many times, Western Europe, oh, that's an American colony, 100%. Ponce's not answering me. So, but let me see. He said Trump has a good effect. And again, and overall, I have said, I still think Trump is the best president of my life. I can't think of another guy, but let's see. Unless I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Ponsta. Trump has a good effect. I know I lived in the U.S. Fuck no, I only speak English. Yeah, Shane's but Ponce, then I assume you're agreeing with me. When it comes to the biggest cuck white men in the world, or we'll just say compare American white men and Western European white men. Oh, Western European white men on average are cuckified to a different level than American men. It's so obvious. But anyway, he said Trump has a good effect thus far. Teach the EU crowd that USA is not a friend in European interests. Now, I truly believe that America should be an ally to the Western Europeans. Why? Because Leadership 101, we should respect our forefathers. What did I say? Christianity, European freedom. Even though European, their level of freedom is even worse than America now, like freedom of speech. But it is a Christian country. It's European. These are our forefathers. Hopefully they have the same values of freedom, that we should be natural allies. But that doesn't mean you should leech off your ally. It's time for the Europeans to pay their own tax money, build up their own militaries, and be primarily responsible for that. Meaning this whole Ukraine-Russian thing, who should be leading this effort? Germany, France, UK. We can help, meaning Americans can help, but we're secondary. The primary, and this also means who's going to die. Meaning if there's a war, if there's combat, it should be the Europeans first that are willing to fight and die for Europe, not Americans. Why should Americans be the primary element to fight and die? So for that logic, I agree. The NATO contract is a raw deal, at least temporarily. Maybe in history it was a good deal, but even when I was in it, the last 20, 30, 40 years, it's a raw deal for Americans. But that doesn't mean we can't be allies. So with that said and done, hopefully you understand how I feel about NATO. But what Trump is doing in Greenland, let's watch a quick video here and you tell me, if I was a Danish person who said, man, I like Trump. I get it. Meaning, I think Trump has inspired many Europeans, especially if you're a white man, is to grab your balls, be proud of your country, and start demanding nationalism. Well, if that was the case, if I was a Danish man who's like, man, I love Donald Trump, man. I think he's awesome. I think nationalism. Well, wait a minute. You want Greenland? No, go fuck yourself. You're not going to take that. Why? Why won't you let America take Greenland? Because I learned nationalism from you, from Trump. I mean, what would you think if one of our allies like Canada said, wow, we want Alaska? What do you think the typical American would be? And, this is our ally, Canada. Keep your fucking hands off Alaska. I mean, I think that's what we would say. So what would you expect? You could say a MAGA person from Denmark to say, keep your hands off. But who knows? It could be a strategic maneuver by Trump where he doesn't really want to get Greenland. I don't know about that. Maybe it's a way to flip the legal clause for America to get out of NATO. And I do think America needs to get out of NATO. And then we could renegotiate a new contract where we are secondary in terms of support, whatever. And the Europeans, you are the ones who primarily need to spend your money, your military, and if a war comes, you're going to have to die for Europe, not for Americans. So who knows? Let me go. I'll get back to the, mighty Eastern Europe is built different. Oh, yeah, I spent some time. Eastern Europe's a different thing, and I make that known. And then you got what's called Central Europe. You got Poland and the Czech and Hungary, and that, they get it. But Western Europe, and I made sure I made specifically, I'm talking about Western European white men. The cuck level of those men compared to American, it's enormously different. I mean, you could see it by a mile, the difference, because again, the thought that America, and even you have to just look at the language. I've always said it. The European Union, there's only one country in the European Union that speaks English. It's called Ireland. And guess what? All the Europeans are like the little school kids, like, learn your English, learn your English. They should say, Dad, Mom, why do I have to learn English? Well, because they want to use excuses. Well, it's the international language. Yeah, why? Why? Because of America. That's why. I mean, it's okay. I mean, we'll talk later. Let me watch this quick video and get back. But I'm telling you, don't fool yourself. If you're an American white man, if you think the feminism is bad, the socialism, the cuckified white men, you go to Western Europe, you will see a new level of cuckified white men. So that's the one thing I like what Trump is doing in Greenland. He's just showing the Europeans that you have little dicks and American, we are the big dick men. And the best way for Europeans is to sort of deal with this is stand up. It's time for you to stand up and build up your military and build up your nationalism. But whether you understand this or not, Western Europe, it's an American colony. Same thing why we went to Venezuela. I mean, I've said many times, we are the American empire. All right, let me go to this video here because it's also pretty interesting. And I'll look at your comments. We'll go back to comments. But this is pretty interesting here, what's happening. And let's hear what Big Donald has to say.
In Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland. And we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay? I would like to make a deal, the easy way. But if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And I'm a man. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too. I have to tell you. And they've been very nice to me.
Yeah, I like Denmark. I spent a little time before in Copenhagen, so I think there was a comment like "no guns." Yeah, build up your military. At the end of the day, nobody really I mean, again, why is America the superpower? Our military might and our economic might. They need both. The Western Europeans need to build up at least a reason. I mean, you people are afraid of America going into Greenland. Build up your military, and it's time for Americans to leave Europe to save Americans' taxpayer money. But you need to build up your military where at least you could protect your own country.
I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also, but
there's no doubt about it. Trump is playing a gangster role here. And the reason he's playing a gangster role here to the Denmark is weak. It is what it is. This is what I like about Donald Trump. I've said this many times. Western Europe is an American colony, and everyone will know it is. And Donald Trump is showing to the Western Europe, we're the gangsters and you're not. And the best way to push back, if you're a Western European person, is to start building your country up and stop being dependent on America for at least one thing, and that's your defense.
Need that, because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger.
Yeah, see, this is, I think, Ponce, who speaks 7 languages. Ponce, I'm sure the most important language you speak, though, is English, let's face it. But anyway, the same thing Ponce said, oh, we're going in there about China and Russia. I don't. That's not the number one reason. The same thing he just said about Greenland. Greenland, it's about China, Russia. I'd say number one, we're going into Greenland is we want those natural resources. I think the number one reason we went into Iraq is the oil. Number one reason we went to Venezuela is the oil. Now, there are secondary reasons. I would agree, Russia and China. But I think that island, the size of Greenland's phenomenal. Those natural resources, oh, yeah. That oil in Venezuela, oh, yeah. Number one reason. Why? Because you got to think like a corporation. That's what America is. It's money first. And then it's security to push out your adversaries. And oh, by the way, Western Europe, you ain't an adversary. You want to know why? Because you're weak. You are one word. I would describe Western European men is weak. Donald Trump ain't afraid of you.
There are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be...
I mean, isn't that so pathetic? He is lecturing you. Donald Trump, an American president, is lecturing Europeans and the Danes on what you need to do about your country. It is so embarrassing. It's like a father lecturing a child. I don't think, I want to pause right here so that way we understand, because I actually really like what Donald Trump is doing, because my time in Europe, there is an arrogance with Western Europeans. When I say this, they're like, oh, no. We are allies. We are partners. It's like, no, you're not. We're the boss. Oh, no, you're not. You arrogant Americans. Yeah. What is Trump showing to the world? That America, we're the badasses. And what are Europeans? Cucks. Now, what should Europeans do? If you're men, you should look at Donald Trump and say, get the fuck out of Greenland. You put one. In fact, if you had balls, I would kick out their military. I think we only have one base now. It's called the Space Force. I don't know what it's called. Space Force now is the new military branch. I think it's Space Force. I'd kick them out. Meaning, you think you do those threats to America, what would we do to you? So just think you're basically eating a shit sandwich. You're listening to Trump like little kids, like, yeah, I know, we have to defend him. Oh my God. It's really pathetic. That's what Trump is doing very good. And that's also why he appealed to a lot of Americans, because his rhetoric, even domestically, I think he mentioned something, not just about, remember when he first ran for president back in 2000 and he talked about the border wall and the Mexicans, they're not sending their best, they're sending their rapists, and a lot of Americans were like, yup. And what is Donald Trump doing? He's basically showing to the Western Europeans, you're not the boss. We're the boss. You want to be the boss? Then take charge. Good luck. And it's waking your Western Europeans up to something I've always said, but they were too stupid. And actually, Western Europeans were too arrogant to understand. And that is, yeah, you're not the fucking boss. In fact, I'm going to live it out to the Western Europeans. Now, I have a fondness for Germans because, my mother's German. I have a very fondness, and I have a totally different view of World War II. But just to let the cat out of the bag, so you understand NATO, there's only one European country that we sort of look and we give more deference to. You probably could guess it. It's the UK. We do give the UK a little bit more deference. We're the boss, but we give them more deference. The rest of the Western Europe, shut the fuck up and fall in line. And the reason I'm sounding like this, the same thing with Trump, is it's the best leadership lesson you could get as a Western European. It wakes you up and it says, I thought we were equal partners with America. Whoever said that, you dumb fuck. I mean, whoever said that, you're not. We're the boss and you are subservient to us. If you don't like it, and I hope you don't, then what's the best thing to do? Stand up and start doing it. But like I said, that's I could talk about other stuff, but that's actually the good part I like about Donald Trump. He's letting the truth out, and Americans are seeing it too. They're like, what? What are the Europeans doing? Nothing. I've said, even if, say, Germany, that's where a lot of our forces are. I was stationed in Germany. Even if Germany wanted to do some type of revolution or civil war, they would need America's permission. We've got the guns. We're in Germany. We're in the military base. So again, that's a good thing I do like about Trump. We'll finish this out this video, but it is truly amazing on how cockeyed Western Europeans have. And Trump is shedding light on it. It's true.
Doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way.
I mean, you don't see it that he's threatening your country. What do you think we would do, America, if that type of talk was given to us from anyone, our ally, especially concerning our land? The best way to maybe do a good scenario would be Alaska. You know, Denmark to Greenland, maybe America to Alaska. What do you think America would tolerate? How much do you think America can tolerate if some other president was talking like that to us in a threatening manner? And what do the Europeans do? Fucking nothing, because you're cucks. Sometimes leadership, you got to swallow the hard medicine. And that's why when I was in Europe, European girls, so I could tell you European men right now, European girls love fucking Americans because they look at us, whether you understand this or not, they tell us, they look at American men as just the biggest and the strongest around, but they're more sexually attracted to American men than European men. Why? Because women are naturally attracted to power. And again, you should be thanking Donald Trump for showing the truth. And the truth is you're weak and we're strong. And I don't want it to be that way. I really do think we should be allies more on an equal partnership, but you got to stand up for yourself.
Please, go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. President, why is it so important to you to own it when you have a military presence there, which you could expand to affect security?
Because when we own it, we defend it. You don't defend leases the same way. You have to own it. And, you know, with a nation, look at what happened with Obama with that horrible deal they made with Iran. It was a short-term deal. It was like a 9-year deal. Countries can't make 9-year deals or even 100-year deals. Countries have to have ownership. And you defend ownership, you don't defend leases. And we'll have to defend Greenland. If we don't do it, China or Russia will. It's not going to happen. We are not going to have, and I like China, I like Russia, I love the people of China, I love the people of Russia. I get along very well with President Putin, but I'm very disappointed in him. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to go over to China in April, but I don't want them as a neighbor in Greenland. Not going to happen. And by the way, and NATO's got to understand that. I'm all for NATO. I saved NATO. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have a NATO right now. But we're not going to allow Russia or China to occupy Greenland. And that's what's going to happen if we don't.
So we're doing one more videos. Yeah, I think Ponce said about the oil. No, I mean, it was absolutely disastrous. But the point being is you have to remember a lot of these military conflicts that we're doing into, there's, you could say, two ways we're making money. One is we get the actual oil or resources, and we haven't been doing that much. China, in many ways, is probably going to do much better than us in Afghanistan because they're just going to, China will just go in there, not with the military, just purely economics. All they want to do is make deals. But I think I'm pronouncing the name Ponce. There's another way we make money, and it's destroying the American citizen, and that it's through our taxes, and we pay for these military-industrial complex. So companies like Boeing and Raytheon, meaning the military-industrial complex, you know, lack of a better word, the first guy comes out is Eric Prince. I've had some dealings with him, but you know, he's part of that American military complex. The problem is their profits are all being made from who? The American taxpayer. So welcome to inflation. So don't fool yourself. There's another way to make profits. One is on the American taxpayer. The two is on these natural resources. But I've said again, make it known. I believe the special operations mission in Venezuela is at a higher level than Osama bin Laden. So first is we've done that before. So don't fool yourself, but it's at a higher level. I mean, it is a Hollywood movie level operation, but we've done it. But there's a whole difference between doing a special operations mission. Again, we killed Osama bin Laden. Did we win the war on terror? I think it was an absolute joke. So now the mission is we're going to control a country. We're going to control the oil. These are apples and oranges. One is a mission to kill or capture, we'll say, Osama bin Laden, success, pretty phenomenal. One is Maduro, even more phenomenal, successful. But those are a special operation mission. Now we're going to go in and control Venezuela and control the oil. I think it's going to go to shit. But if you ask me why are we doing it, I still believe we're going in there, one, for the money, and two, for China and Russia. Because like I said, if we were really worried about China, especially China, not so much Russia, but China, then why are we doing business? I mean, who built up China? Why are we doing business with China? Stuff like that. But I would say first is try to get the oil. We'll see how that goes. We're going to do one more. Sweden, the most dangerous nation in the EU, is bombs. I mean, I would say, we're talking about the EU. The EU is just so fucked that Trump is doing you a favor by getting out of NATO. And he's also doing the American citizen a favor because we need to save our taxpayer money. And maybe that's why he wants to do it, because trust me, all we're going to take is our taxpayer money that we're sending to NATO, and now we're going to build up our own military. We're going to go to 1.5 trillion. So I think the American taxpayer is going to get sort of screwed either way. But I really don't think that Leadership 101 change happens unless there's pain. Just remember that change doesn't really happen, or we'll say significant change, unless there's pain. Look at me. I never wanted to go and be social media, but when there was significant pain brought to my life, I never imagined it when the FBI, I changed my life, and now I've gone out. And so it's the same thing. There's nothing that's going to change the European Union until pain comes. And for America to get out of NATO, that would be one significant element to push the European Union in the right direction, which is probably the graveyard. That's the best. It's just time for nationalism to come up. But like I said, I don't have a very positive view on the European nation. We're going to do one more quick video, and again, this is about the end of MAGA, and then we'll go final to questions here. But final video here. 1 second. Let me bring this up. 1 second.
Trump's base is finding itself at a crossroads. It finds that, quote, MAGA and America First once functioned as synonyms, two labels for the same revolt against the progressive orthodoxy of an entrenched elite that was unresponsive to the voters. But inside Trump's base, a rising faction now insists the two are diverging. In their telling, Trump's second-term agenda has drifted from first principles. I'm going to bring in the author of that article, Michael Duran. He is the director of the Center for Peace and Security in the Middle East and a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute.
I'm just reading your comments, Ryan. One is that one person said, protect the white women. I don't protect white women unless they're traditional women. And you're not a traditional woman unless you believe women do not deserve the right to vote. If you think women vote, well, then you're a feminist and I'm not protecting you. But this is, again, before you can stand up to your country or whatever, stand up to your women. And women, and again, this is why European women, truth be told, I'll do stories when I was in the military. European women are more attracted to American men. Women are naturally attracted to strong men. It is time for men to put women in their place. If you believe, if you're a woman and you think women deserve the right to vote, you're a feminist. End of story. And because you're a feminist, you don't deserve to be protected. If you're a traditional woman, which means you don't believe women deserve the right to vote, or if you do vote, we'll say you will vote exactly what your man tells you to do. Your man, your husband, your boyfriend, whatever, says you will fucking vote this, you will listen to me, and that's the order. And that woman says, yes, sir, fine, I'll make an exception. You can vote as long as you vote exactly according to the man. If that's how you are, you're a traditional woman and you deserve to be protected. If you're not, then it is what it is. I have no sympathy for him.
Michael, it's great to be with you.
Great to be with you.
Congratulations on that piece.
Thank you.
If you could first just explain to us the differences between America First and the other faction that we're seeing that you wrote so much about that, is becoming increasingly clear.
Well, MAGA is what President Trump wants it to be. America First is this current that is becoming increasingly separate from.
And I think any MAGA person should agree, it is morphing, which is natural in leadership. Ideologies do morph, but I do think MAGA it's hard to say. Maybe it's President Trump's second term, but it is morphing, and it's morphing to a direction that's not necessarily aligned to nationalism. I would say it's more aligned to imperialism.
Trump, led, I think, by Tucker Carlson. Other people in that current are Steve Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I think you could say Nick Fuentes as well. He's on the margins of it, and they want to separate, especially on foreign policy. They want a more isolationist foreign policy. They want to separate the United States from Israel. They want to try to cut a deal with Putin. They're opposed to Trump's actions in Venezuela. When I wrote the piece, I actually wrote the piece in late October and early November. It came out in Tablet's print magazine, and this was all just kind of starting to come together. But I think this week in Venezuela, we can see that this is really clearly two distinct groups.
And how is that going to impact the president's foreign policy moving forward? He obviously has a much longer agenda that includes more than Venezuela. And when you have this kind of break within his own party, does that make it trickier for him?
It's very tricky.
Well, I think also we have to ask, I mean, we all know about the Monroe Doctrine, where I guess that includes Greenland and Venezuela and stuff like that. Where did Iran come from? I mean, when I think of Iran, I think of Israel. You know, maybe we're doing that for Israel, and well, where are we going here? Well, what is the MAGA? I mean, I'm still not in favor of what we're doing by Venezuela, but Donald Trump is saying, hey, that's the Monroe Doctrine. That's what we need to do. And if we have to invade and be an imperialistic nation, okay, Iran is not part of the Monroe Doctrine. What are we doing? Why are we there? The only thing that comes to my mind is Israel.
And it's really kind of a contradiction at the heart of the Trump movement, because Tucker Carlson is the #1 broadcaster in the MAGA world. He has enormous reach, particularly with younger MAGA voters, and he's really moving increasingly against the president's priorities. The president so far has, on the Iran question back in June during the war with Iran, he called him kooky, Tucker Carlson, but he hasn't completely separated himself from Carlson, nor has J.D. Vance, who's even closer to Carlson. So here's the #1 broadcaster, very close to them, and is really undermining them.
And, we just saw this week on Capitol Hill, the Senate move forward with the War Powers Resolution that would curb some of the president's power to take further action in Venezuela. 5 Republicans joined Democrats to pass.
Like I said, mark my words, Afghanistan, Iraq, I'm going to go down again on this to make sure we're all clear on this. And that was, I think if anyone remember my videos I had before when I was with the U.S. Army, my buddy was, I think it was the 4th Infantry Division out of Fort Stewart, Georgia. They were part of the Spearhead Division into Baghdad. And I said, I believed him. I don't think people realize how powerful we are as a military. And he said, we are going to go to Baghdad. They were in pre-position in Kuwait at the time. And he said, we are going to kill and destroy anything on our path, and we're going to get to Baghdad. And I said, I was in the U.S. Army European headquarters at the time. This is Heidelberg, Germany. And I said, that sounds like a very clear military operation. And I said, you're going to succeed. But then I said, what are you going to do after you get to Baghdad? And that was the government's going to transition, and he didn't quite know. And I was like, it's not sounding very good to me. We didn't do a good job, because that's not what the military is meant to do. So again, that's special, because it reminds me, because history does repeat people, it really does. But when President Maduro's, I feel many times it was a kidnapping, but whatever. But when America did that, people were like, man, look at that awesome operation. Again, I put that operation above what the Navy SEALs did with Osama bin Laden, but Osama bin Laden was also a pretty phenomenal operation. So what am I saying? We've done those operations before. But what have we not been able to do? Nation building, regime change. So what do I think we're going to do in Venezuela? Oh, I think it's going to go shit. Now, Greenland could be different. Why? I don't know how many people are in Greenland. There's 30,000 people. If we invade there, we could just occupy it. I mean, the Danish ain't going to do shit. They're probably going to send us Danish croissants. Iran, That is a whole different ball game, and I think that's going to go to hell. Israel's going to put their hand in that. But I want to go back, though, to Venezuela, where people are like, because you can hear MAGA now. MAGA is very weird now. I mean, I saw a video, I should show it, where there's a MAGA woman that is making fun of Danish people, saying, hey, you got a problem with us coming to Greenland? You know, go screw yourself. Where did that come from? You know, like I said, I do like what Trump is doing to give hard medicine to Western Europeans to show you, like, I told you so. You guys are cucks. I told you, you didn't believe me. I'm telling you, you are weak. We are strong. But I'm not into invading Greenland. And so now MAGA's like, yeah, we're going to do this, and ha, ha, ha. Where did we come from? But you'll see a lot of MAGA too. It's like, yeah, man, we went into Venezuela and we kicked ass. It reminds me when we took out Osama bin Laden, we're like, yeah, man, we kicked ass. Okay, there's the strategic, tactical operation, and then there's the war. Did we win the war on terror? Not only did we not win it, I don't think we could even define what it is. So now we're going to go to Venezuela. Did we do a successful tactical operation with President Maduro's? It's unbelievable. I would consider it a great, and I'm sure Hollywood right now is like, oh my God, we're going to make money. It will. That is going to be a blockbuster movie that's going to come out. But are we going to win the war, which I guess we're going to take over that country and make it? Yeah, we'll see. But people like to get ahead of themselves on that path. But yeah, MAGA definitely is changing. We're going to finish this video out, and then I'll take final questions.
That now it's probably not going to pass through the House, and of course the president would have to sign it. But was that symbolic to you to sort of illustrate this broader point you're making?
Oh, sure. I mean, in terms of the position that let's call them the America First crowd is taking, absolutely. This kind of war powers question that comes up, I think, in every presidency, even Obama's presidency, when he went into Libya, it came up. So that particular issue, not so much. But if you look at what's happening in Trump's coalition, yes, indeed.
And I know we're still, how many years? A couple years away from having to think about who could take over for President Trump. But talk to me about how this division within MAGA, within the base, is going to impact the primary for the Republican ticket.
Well, I think you put your finger on it. This really is a fight over the future of the MAGA movement. And that's why it's funny that the president isn't more directly involved in it. But I think the key issue is that when Tucker Carlson says he wants to separate the United States from Israel, he also is going directly and explicitly against evangelical Zionists. And they are crucial to Trump's coalition. I mean, one of the ways that Trump put together this broad, multi-ethnic, multi-religious coalition was by working through religious groups against the identity politics of the left. So if they get their way and they really have a lot of influence, then they're going to blow apart the coalition.
All right, so we're going to find out here. MAGA will eventually split. And if you ask me what some of the reasons is, one is the Israel issue. We have to start asking, are we America first? Or all these, like, for instance, Iran. Is Iran really America first? So we have a very strange and what can be considered dysfunctional relationship with Israel. So that is a big part about redefining what this movement is. That's number one. Two, as I've said many times about women, there are still many MAGA women like this Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sure she does very good stuff and this and that. But if you vote, you're a feminist and you're going to be treated like a man. Otherwise, what we consider to be a traditional woman, she doesn't vote. Or we'll just say if she does vote, she will vote exactly according to her father or to her husband. That's how it works. And then two, race. We have to start talking about race. And, there's many other issues, but also is, when I use the term American empire, and American empire obviously has a negative, connotation, just like imperialism. And people were like, no, it is. We are. I mean, the way we're acting, we are acting like an empire. Now, if you're fine, say, fuck it. The world is dog eat dog and we got the big guns and then fine. I mean, why don't we just take Canada while we're at it, right? I mean, we have to ask ourselves, where I think a lot of Americans are like, something, my life really sucks. And meaning a lot of this imperialism and empire is really for the corporations. They're not really for the regular working American man. If you said, we just arrested Maduro yesterday, for you, for me, I don't really need it. Well, the drugs, well, then seal the border. I'm all about sealing the border. You want to blow up drug boats, you want to kick out illegal aliens, but I don't really see why Maduro is going to help me, or it's for the oil. That's fine. But if we're going to have a policy that says if we want it, we take it, then why wouldn't an American just want to steal? It's the same thing. I'm changing the subject a little bit, but when they say about student loans, you need to be responsible with your money. You need to pay it back. Well, the government doesn't pay it out. They print. So if we're going to have a policy that says, well, we want oil and we're going to take it. I mean, that's another way to say steal it. Okay, that's fine. But then me as American, if I want to steal stuff, then why can't I steal it? But we have to make sure we define our policy. But I think this sort of imperialism and empire, I'm telling you, it's going to go bad. A lot of them, and you see a lot of them, MAGA are already transformed. I mean, where all the blue? They're like, we want Greenland. They're like, dude, we're going to take Greenland. Okay. But if I was a Canadian, I'd be thinking pretty fast. If you want to be part of America, you're fine. If you don't want to be part of America, you better watch out. Why wouldn't America all of a sudden say, something? I mean, Canada's part of our border. Mexico, and think about it. Why wouldn't Mexico even be more important than Venezuela? Probably because Mexico might be a little harder. So we're living in this dog-eat-dog world where it's basically just might makes right. That's fine as long as you're powerful. If you lose your power, we're done. So anyway, I just don't believe that Trump campaigned on, or this nationalist ideology had imperialism and global empire attached to it. That was exactly the stuff that I was saying. That's what America is. We need to get away from it. And if Trump also campaigned, he's going to get us out of wars. He's going to stay away from wars. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. But like I said, I say it anytime. It doesn't matter how you slice it or dice it. America is eventually going to go to revolution. Why? Because you live by the sword, you die by the sword. We're a violent nation. But I do like the part about Greenland, though. The one part I really, really like is if you're an American, you should have that sense of, historical reverence to our grandfathers, our forefathers in Europe. And if you go to Europe, and I'm talking Western Europe, it's pathetic. It's so pathetic. Like, for instance, if you see, I should do videos on what's happening with, immigrants here. If you think it's bad that foreigners walk over Americans, yeah, you go to Western Europe. I mean, these Western men are such cucks, how they just let their women get raped and then foreigners get raped and they let the women be the leaders. I mean, it's pretty sad. So that's the great part. And it's funny. It's a humorous part, but it's serious, but it's educational. But Trump is educating Americans who don't know that Europeans are cucks. And Europeans are also realizing that, yeah, America really is our daddy. We are. I mean, it's pathetic. But to the Americans, don't fool yourself. To the American men, we also need to rise, because this whole thing about this push of imperialism, same thing I did that video on that woman who got shot. If she was an illegal immigrant, if she was a foreigner, she's a U.S. citizen. I get it. She's some Looney Tunes liberal woman. But I'm telling you, be very careful. What did she do illegally? I don't know. Some misdemeanor. I mean, we all know it was a misdemeanor. You don't think those cops were aggressive and then shot her? I still think it was a bad shoot. And people are like, screw it. Karma, it's going to come around. So when Trump wants to build up this foreign military, he's going to build up a domestic military. And maybe it's going to come for a nationalist like us. It's not in the direction we're going. Let me do final thing. Any questions? We'll go to the last one first. Ponze, yes, it's bad over here. Gone down fast. Yeah, I would just say generally, if you're an American, these elements of feminism, socialism, multiculturalism, whatever these garbage ideologies, it's even worse in Western Europe, even worse. And it's a shame. It's a really shame what's happening. I shouldn't look like, yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot of, Ponzi said the ice, a lot of MAGA people. And that's another thing. MAGA people are like, we need to back the blue. Well, I'm the blue. I'm FBI. No one's backing me. So it's just a phrase. But I'm telling you, there's a news source that the cop who did the shoot has over $1 million now of, what is it called, like GoFundMe, be very careful to the American citizens. That was a U.S. citizen woman who got shot. One day it could be you. I think, and again, I've seen this from law enforcement, and I should do the video too about ICE. The people that they were recruiting for ICE are not very good. And I've said before, if ICE focuses on their mission, I will thank them for their service. Their mission is illegal aliens. So first, let's start with foreign nationals. Let's just start with that. And then, of course, foreign nationals who entered America illegally. If they focus on that, I have generally no problem with them. She's a U.S. citizen. And I get it. U.S. citizens, they could get in their way and we could work. But I don't like the idea of ICE or federal agents shooting U.S. citizens because they got in the way. They were being annoying. It just, you got to be careful. It could swing both ways. But MAGA's like, man, we got to back the blue man. She's a liberal feminist. I got it. She's a liberal feminist. I don't even believe women deserve the right to vote. But I'm telling you, be very careful on your principles. I thought they went overboard on it. That's just me. And so let me look at Shane. Typical MAGA tard is just his part. Yeah, I'm starting to see MAGA turn into a cult. And I've said many times, part of leadership is follow the principles, not the person. Now, if the person and the principles line up, you got yourself a leader. But I'm starting to see with MAGA that it is turning into a cult, that they're following Donald Trump first and principle second, because I think a lot of people don't have principles. Like I said, the war on terror. When I was in the military and the FBI, the war on terror, I didn't quite understand the war on terror. Where is it? Did we win? I don't even know. Like we're going at Venezuela. Why? I don't know. It was a law. I mean, do you now believe it? It wasn't a law enforcement operation. If it was, he's arrested. It's over. We leave. No, it wasn't. It was a pretext for an invasion. So I think sooner or later, MAGA are going to realize, where is this country going? But a lot of MAGA people, I do think they kind of drank the Kool-Aid and they're just like, well, if Trump wants it, that's it. And you kind of see where the ship is going, man. But this will be interesting. But my prediction stands. I think no matter what is happening, it continues to point to the same direction, that the American empire, and I've used that word since I've gone out on social media, the American empire is in the declining phase. And when it gets in the declining phase, it's going to become more radicalized, more violent, more impure, more centered on themselves and not caring about other people. Because a great one is Greenland, meaning Denmark is our ally. It's a European country. Why aren't we dealing with them different than evil Venezuela, which is a dictatorship and communism, right? I mean, we'll see. That Greenland thing is going to be very interesting. All right, let me see if anyone, student loans, yeah, I mean, I go back to the student loans. It's leadership. It's called lead by example. Our politicians are our leaders. What do they do when they don't pay off the government debt? They just print money. That's called fiscally irresponsible. So it's very arrogant for our government to say, you need to be fiscally responsible. If you took out a loan, you need to be a man and you need to repay it. Okay, but I'm just a regular citizen. You're our government. You're our leaders. You should be even at a higher level than me. Why don't you pay off our government loans? Why don't you just, instead of printing more money, you start paying off the debt? They don't do it. So that's my point about student loans. If I was you, and again, I've said that I did another video on it from the American taxpayer standpoint. I get it. No excuse. I'm not giving these rich, dumb, spoiled college kids free money for school. You have to pay it off. I get that point. But I'd also say if you were a college kid, I wouldn't pay it off. I'd figure out a way. It's all government funny money anyway. I think that's it. Let me go with that. The ones of reserve currency. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're going to go here, and that is the best way to predict America, how we're going to do it, is look at it like a globalist corporation. You know, where's the money? What are we going to do? And that's what I really think it has to do a lot about money, which is, again, I think Greenland is less about security and more about natural resources. I think Venezuela was not a law enforcement operation. It was an invasion. Why? Probably for the oil. And China, Russia was just to kick them out of the oil. This says, China, Russia, this oil is ours. We basically probably stole it. I mean, this is really how dictator country, think about when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and just said, it's my oil. You don't think there's similarities what we did to Venezuela? I mean, Kuwait was a neighbor of Iraq. So meaning that it was close security proximity. They went in, they took the oil. You don't think we're going to do it? Now, Donald Trump is probably going to say, we didn't take the oil. We're still going to sell it. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure we're going to take a big cut, meaning I'm sure we are going to, if it succeeds, it was for a financially incentive operation, which is basically we stole the oil, we took it. Is it that much different than what Saddam Hussein did with Kuwait? We'll see where this American empire is going, but I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And if anyone doesn't agree with me, would you sign up for the military now and fight and die? And I really think the only reason why these guys are doing it, and Donald Trump, that's why he's doing it. He's going to increase the salaries for the soldiers. They're basically government mercenaries, meaning if the money is right, and especially when the economy's down, they can't get a job, I think they'll fight for the military. Otherwise, they're like, no, so why are we doing that? I think that's it for today's episode. I appreciate everyone's support. We're gonna do a couple more episodes. The next one, we're gonna go back to these subjects, especially on an interesting person who's from an interesting perspective on this. But until then, to the American patriots, and I've always said this too, the patriots are not just in America. I've said many times, Western countries. So I say this about Western Europe too. To you Western Europeans, I really think what Trump is doing with Greenland, overall, it's going to help you. It's going to realize you have weak governments. You need to build up and get stronger. So anyway, I say to the American patriots and the Western patriots, it's the same deal. Our countries are going down for these same sort of principles, that we are losing our nationalist identity and we're being taken over by these global entities. Saying what's happening in America, it is still very similar that's happening in the West. So until then, David Baumblatt from Terabint Leadership, I appreciate your support to the Patriots. Lead to victory.